What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday. Jake Waxman, Tom Levelette, Two Guys Talk Sports. Let's do this. All right. Special edition for Waxon Wednesday this week. The three topics that I will have in mind, they're going to focus on answering a particular question. That's right. This will be a question that I'll be answering in three different stages, or topic 1, topic 2, topic 3. And all three will be an answer to this particular question that's been on my mind for the entirety of this previous week, one that's been brought up. So this week's topic, it's all around the NFL running back. So running backs in the NFL, don't get me wrong, they do a lot for NFL teams. You know, they'll get those hard first downs when you need them most, like whether it's a 10-yard first down or just that hard yard to get, that 1 yard you need to get a first down. Not only they can handle handoffs really well, they can catch the ball if you need to. There's a lot of different things they can block, a lot of different things that running backs can do for you. They've been a valued position in the NFL for its entire existence. And yet, as of right now, NFL running backs seem to be struggling getting long-term deals done. And a lot of running backs, like Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley, for example, are not happy that they've not been able to get long-term deals secured. So it begs this question: why aren't NFL running backs getting paid, or why are they not getting long-term deals at the very least? There are reasons for this. NFL teams are starting to notice some things about paying up on running backs, and it's leading to hesitation in terms of contract negotiations. So that's where my focus will be in this week's Wax on Wednesday. First reason that NFL teams are not paying up running backs or extending them for a long-term deal. A lot of this has to do a lot of risk versus reward. And as of right now, the risks are way outweighing the rewards. You could extend an NFL running back, and they may not put in the same production they did in their first 4 years with the team. Or when it comes time to negotiate a new contract, the guy could have a really bad injury and he may never be the same again. So here's the thing. The risk is, okay, so contract negotiations are tricky, but when it comes to running backs, one thing that I have noticed, especially a lot in the last few years, especially the last 2 decades, the production of the average NFL running back seems to fall off after 4 years. Like, once they get a new deal done, they're not as productive as they were before they got that new deal. I don't know if it's... And we also have to keep in mind that NFL running backs see a lot more contact than any other position in the NFL. Even more than offensive linemen, wide receivers, quarterbacks, defensive line quarterbacks, you name it. The NFL running backs, they get tackled a lot. And a lot of times they will get bruised, beaten. I mean, they get punished. And they take a lot of punishment. And some deliver a lot of punishment, and others take a lot of punishment. And sometimes that punishment can really beat up a running back to the point where they may not be the same the following season, because the offseason there just may not be enough time in the offseason for them to recover. So that's that's the first reason that teams are hesitant to sign these running backs to new deals, because of the amount of punishment they take on the field season in and season out, and their productivity can decline as a result of these bruises and these beatings, this punishment that they take. And there's a lot less risk in drafting a fresh new running back out of college as opposed to re-signing a veteran whose production may not be up to par for the following season, especially after a new deal is signed. So that's one reason. Finally, second reason, running backs, they do a lot of things for NFL teams. They can do a lot for your NFL fantasy team. But something to keep in mind. One of the big reasons these days, and then back then, one of the big reasons that NFL running backs have the production that they do is because the NFL running backs that do have good production or productive seasons, it's because they're behind a damn good offensive line, or one of the best lines in the NFL, to say the least. Just as critical as having a good backfield is having protection for your quarterback and an offensive line that can allow the offense to hum or go as you please. So You gotta have a strong offensive line these days. And when I think about strong offensive lines and running backs, I think DeMarco Murray. Okay, he played for the Cowboys, and there was one season he had a really great season. It was behind a strong Cowboys offensive line. Then the next season, he went to Philadelphia and didn't have the same kind of production the next year because he was behind a different offensive line, potentially a different system. So, and granted, quarterbacks rely on good offensive lines too and to get the ball to their receivers. But you want a running back to succeed and be able to have open holes to exploit the defense through, got to have a good offensive line that can open up those holes. So how far a running back goes these days is very dependent on how strong an offensive line is. So that's another reason, and which brings me to this point. I think there are other positions that are more key than the running back position these days, and the offensive line is one of those. And then finally, third and final reason. The NFL these days, pass-happy league. Teams would rather throw the football than run the football. Now, granted, the running backs can help if they can catch the ball. Like if you can like a short toss to a running back for first down yardage, that can help a lot. But running backs cannot catch a deep ball, and they can't go sprint down the field. They're usually not the fastest guys. That's wide receivers. And even tight ends are kind of more reliable for catching those deep balls. Now, running backs can help with the blocking, but aside from that, when it comes to a passing play, there's not much they can do unless it's a short pass. So that's the short passing game is where the running back can be most effective. But anything beyond, say, 10 yards, you're going to want to get the ball to your best wide receiver. So those are kind of the three reasons. Pass-happy league, risks when negotiating a new contract, and, of course, offensive line play, all the more critical. Now, there are some... And most running backs these days, they really just don't have as many skills as previous running backs to have a long career. So we had guys like Frank Gore who are the exception, and maybe even a Nick Chubb, and Christian McCaffrey. There will be running backs that will have lengthy careers because they can do more for their team than just run the football. They can also manage the offense in ways too. Kind of reminds me of Walter Sweetness Payton. He had at the very least a 10+ year career. And a lot of that was because not only could he run the ball, he could run trick plays too. He could throw the football if he needed to. So running backs who are versatile, like a Christian McCaffrey, for example, and Frank Gore, and anyone else I just mentioned, those guys will have lengthy careers because there are skill sets that they bring to the NFL that they can do. While other running backs, they end up having shorter careers, or at least somewhere between 4 to 7 year careers, because all they can really do is run the football and maybe catch short passes in short yardage situations. And so, one final note, with the way the NFL landscape is changing, as I mentioned, the pass-happy league could see another rise of the fullback position. Maybe fullbacks make a comeback. You just never know. So, this has been this week's Waxon Wednesday. I've just kind of, in a way, answered a question of why NFL running backs aren't as valued as they once were. Of course, back in the day, teams were relying on running the ball, but since I'd say the 90s since the 80s to the present day, the league has become more and more of a pass-happy league, and that's kind of that has diminished the value of a running back. And and of course, as I mentioned, running backs, they take so much punishment too, which can hamper their careers too and lead to injuries. And also, you want a running back to succeed? Well, got to have a good offensive line. As long as you have a strong offensive line, any running back can succeed with a team that has a strong offensive line. So, just my thought. So these are the reasons I believe running backs are not getting those long-term deals that they are hoping for, or ended up being franchise tagged, as mentioned. So that's this week's Waxon Wednesday. I want to hear from you sports fans. Why do you think running backs aren't securing the long-term deals or the money that they really, really want to get? And why aren't they securing long-term careers? Why do you think that is? I'd love to hear that from you sports fans. All right. That is it for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, signing off.